Joey said that once.
Okay, now it's 2 o'clock. Good afternoon, everyone. Wait a minute. Good afternoon, everyone. That's a lot better. Okay. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I'll call this meeting to order. This is the City of Hardeeville City Council Workshop, Council Chambers, 205 Main Street, Hardeeville, South Carolina, 29927, Thursday, September 25th, 2025 at 2 p.m. Now, I know that we had a very good meeting led by Mayor Pro Tem Guzman. Please, I apologize in advance if I cannot live up to her high standard that she set. You did an excellent, I watched it, you did an excellent job, and thank you for filling in for me. There has been a change in the agenda in that item number A has asked they were not prepared to come today. Is that correct, Mr. Gruber?
Yes, sir. So there was a communication error following the Planning Commission. Because this group had come forward for a previous workshop, there was a misunderstanding that they would be asked to come forward for a second workshop. So we've asked to take this item off of the agenda today, and we'll look at either taking it up at the future council meeting, or we'll look at rescheduling this for a future date and time to have a workshop.
Okay, so I want to take this opportunity then to update the council and staff on a meeting that I had this morning. I was asked, I don't know, sometime in the last few days when I was overseas, to have a meeting with Mr. Bostic of the YMCA. I wasn't sure what it was about, but I was, I meet with him regularly, so I said yes. I found out yesterday that it had to do with the Lucknow property. The current owners, the people who own the RV park, are good friends with the chairman of the board of the Beaufort Jasper YMCA. So that was the connection. So who I met with was these two owners of that property. And they asked to meet with me, or asked Mike to connect me, because they had heard of the concerns of the council. So I'm going to give a brief overview of what was discussed with these people. I told him that the council had some concerns. And I also said that just because they have concerns doesn't mean we have not had a vote. So I'm not going to speak for the council and their ultimate decision. I said, but the concerns that we heard at the workshop, the last one we had, were the traffic impact. That intersection is very, very tight, and we're concerned about the public safety of that intersection, adding this heavy trucking there. There are also environmental objections, and I think we all received a letter from the Savannah Wildlife Reserve. I said that is a concern. Number 3, it's outside our growth boundaries. I said, not that we haven't gone outside it before, but it's always a concern. We have those for a specific reason. Also, there's a concern about the additional construction vehicles to that area. There are already over 13 million square feet of warehousing entitled Riverport, Salt, and Clarius. There's a lot of construction of those warehouses, and if we added another building to construct, that would again add another level of public safety concerns. So those, I said, there may be more, but those are the ones that I can recall of that. And they said the following. They maintained that the traffic, that if they don't put the warehouse there, they would add to the RV park that's already there. That's what it's zoned for, that's what is approved. They maintained that the traffic impact would be far worse for RV vehicles going in there being driven by amateurs versus heavy trucking driven by CDL drivers. My comment to that was you need an independent third-party traffic consultant to show the difference of traffic. I said the burden of proof is on you, not on the council. The environmental objections, I said, they said that the buffer's already approved. That property is already entitled. So that, I said, again, I haven't read the letter in a few weeks. Burden of proof is on you. The growth boundaries, that's up to us to decide. And of course, the out of construction vehicles. Again, it's up to them to, they have the burden of proof. So they asked for, rather than go to first reading on October 2nd, a workshop to replace today prior to the first reading and push first reading to October 16th. I said I thought that was a wise decision because I think if they have additional information that the council has yet to receive, then a workshop would be better. So I expect them to do that. There was one other thing that came up, and they suggested that they would be willing to make some contribution to the impacts of the area. My initial response to that was, I don't even like the smell of that. But I said, if there is, the only way that they could possibly work is through DA fees. I said, you work with staff, you decide with the Lucknow people, and but I don't even want to talk about contributions. So that was basically the conversation, and again, the burden of proof are on them. But the landowners seemed eager to make that sale. The sale is not, it's contingent. It will not become final until 30 days after the second reading of a positive yes vote. So these Lucknow people do not own it, although there's a letter of intent. There's one last thing that I'd like to report to council. They made it very clear that any hint of zone shopping and going to Jasper County after we reject it would be met with a lot of anger on at least my part. I'm not going to speak for the council, but there's nothing that upsets me more than zone shopping. There's a few other things, but anyway. So that's what happened this morning. I didn't realize until last night exactly what was going on. I did forward an email to Josh, and he gave me some advice. So that was it. And if the council does want to schedule a workshop to replace with this Part A, that will be your choice. So I think that request will come into staff. Okay, and then it'll be up to council to decide whether or not they want to have another workshop or go right to first reading. That's it. Is there any questions about that? I wanted to make sure that everybody understood what took place.
I'd just like to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing us all up to speed on this.
I think, you know, you deserve nothing less. And, you know, as you all know, getting involved in developers prior to a meeting is something that is a very fine line, and one at which I do not want to cross. And I told them that I would report everything that was said this morning to the council. So thank you, Steve. Okay, Mr. Gruber,
Thank you, Mayor.
it's up to you.
Yes, sir. So I'll tee up this second item just by talking about kind of the chronology. Did he? Talking about the chronology of this particular item. And so this property was initially annexed into the city of Hardeeville in 2022. And at that time, it was assigned a zoning classification of Planned Development District. And shortly after that, a development agreement for this property was approved by the city council. And so then following that, in 2024, an initial infrastructure master plan was brought forward that was ultimately approved by the city in early 2025. And so now we are here to receive the first initial master plan for the residential components of this particular development. I understand that this matter went before the Planning Commission several weeks ago, and I would ask Katie and staff to give kind of a summary update on the materials as well as the Planning Commission's recommendations.
All right, so I'm going to be very brief, and then I'm going to have Willie Powell update you on the progress made since Planning Commission. So this is South Point again. It is located where the area surrounded by red there. I-95 is, sorry, I'm getting used to this. Well, it's surrounded by I-95, Independence Boulevard to the north, and John Smith Road. There we go. John Smith Road over here, sorry. New equipment. The proposed use is for 260 townhomes in, again, the South Point Land Development District. They came in front of Planning Commission with this plan. Planning Commission and staff shared concerns with the active open space appropriateness and location, as well as the dead ends right here. We wanted more of an internal loop road system and the lack of interconnectivity. So from that, which we had summarized in a memo to you earlier this week, these were the recommendations that came out of Planning Commission. Again, they had to do with that internal road network and open space and getting some more emergency access. So from the time of that meeting to pretty much yesterday, the applicants continued to work on improving the plan. The fire marshal and the planning department did get to look at that plan yesterday, and we do believe that they have made great strides in listening to the Planning Commission's recommendations to you. So at this time, I will introduce Willie Powell from Ward Edwards, who will go over those updates for you.
Thank you. Afternoon, Willie Powell with Ward Edwards Engineering. The plan that is up here now is what we've worked with the planners, with staff, the fire marshal, and the client applicant on updating to help provide some additional connectivity, provide the open space and more of a tighter support to the density itself. If I go back just to where we started, the original plan was to kind of utilize some of the property in the rear across from the power line easement with kind of like a park course, and kind of use some of that with more of a passive walking area. But you know, one of the things that we really took away from our Planning Commission meeting was to bring that open space in have it more centralized and usable by all density units, not just those by the main amenity and those kind of in the rear. So from there, we ended up with this plan, which still achieves the open space requirements. And I have hard copies for council as well, if you prefer to have a hard copy of this plan. And so, and I just want to say thank you to the staff and Mr. Rowell for helping us work through this. It's a little bit of a last minute to get it wrapped up and get it before you, but we're pretty pleased with kind of how it all came together. So what we have on this plan now is this road now has a full loop maneuver around through here, and what was originally kind of 3 spurs have been consolidated into 2 spurs, but allows for a better block circulation. So now you have kind of 3 distinct blocks. So 1, 2, and 3. It also eliminated the largest of the dead-end spurs kind of in this area, and then allow this connectivity to occur all the way around. We also, one item that we did take away from Planning Commission and from Mr. Joey was to provide emergency access and connectivity into parcel 12. So that has also been provided up here as a means to get into parcel 12 whenever it comes on board as well. So now that provides 2 points of ingress, egress to this parcel 13, and we'll do the same to parcel 12 sometime down the road whenever it's figured out and understood. We also were able to, by doing that, one of the other big topics was to provide some breakup of these units along I-95. And so now there are these 2 kind of consolidated pocket parks at the end of each of these internal roadways. So also now you have some areas to gather, some tree save areas, and you don't have any headlights, coming to anybody's front door in that area. And then the same thing on the lower end down here. We kind of provided a pocket park along this stretch to help break up this run along this lower wetland edge. We also opened up some of the areas behind these units for a pocket park or dog park or some type of amenity. We'll let the homeowners ultimately decide what serves them best. But it does now. We have 6 or 7 areas of either passive areas or landscape areas or gathering areas or whatever ultimately will serve the homeowners best going forward. It also still allows for stormwater interconnectivity throughout the site as well, and we are going to there'll be walkways that kind of connect these open areas through here. So when we come back for first reading, we'll also show those proper connectivities, proper trails, pathways to show how all this stuff is linked together. I think the other item that Planning Commission did request was a little bit of clarification on the I-95 buffer. Per the PDD, that interstate buffer is allowed to be disturbed for some drainage. And so the Planning Commission had asked for some clarification as to the extent of drainage that might be needed. And so we're still kind of working on that, but I think our working number is about 15 feet. Just to allow rear yard drainage off of these units. And there's also, there's 2 or 3 different locations along 95 that actually sends water toward South Point. And so we need to be able to collect those areas and properly route them around the site back to the wetlands where they ultimately go. So we've not really finalized that number until we get into some of our detailed grading. But our 15 feet is kind of our working number as to what we think we may ultimately need in some areas to allow for rear yard drainage, placement of drainage pipes, and those kind of items. Ultimately, this access to this parcel does come down this bottom right area, which is the Pine Arbor Extension, water and sewer, and access are all provided as a part of the South Point infrastructure IMP, and then the city staff has the phase one development plan submittal, and I think we're pretty close to finalizing that based on a couple of some floodway crossing items that are still being worked through with Chris and with staff. So, but I don't want to take up too much time. I'll open up any kind of questions to council, the staff, and then we have the applicant team here as well to help answer any other questions that you may have on program, on scheduling, other types of items too. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'll remind the council, we are in a workshop mode, so there will be no formal relaxed rules of order. So anyone can speak when they wish, just please respect the previous speaker and make sure they're complete their thoughts before you jump in. So having said that, council, fire away.
I have
That's why we're here.
a couple of concerns.
Yes.
I'm looking at the plan here, I see a 20-foot wetland buffer. Parcel 13, the developed area is probably the same size as the total wetland buffer. You're only showing a portion of it there. That wetland buffer runs all the way back down to almost encompass parcels 12B and looks like 18. What are the chances of moving that buffer back another 30 feet? I'd like to see that buffer, the same buffer that you have with the interstate. I think that protects that wetland area a little bit more. To me, it just makes that much sense to have that there. The other questions that I have there, you have these park areas stretched around here, and you have an amenity center. Based upon your density of 260 single units, if we figured 400 occupants, maybe more, depending on the units, is that amenity center sized enough to handle 400 to 600 residents?
I'll let the applicant speak to the ultimate program of the amenity. That's somewhat of a kind of a placeholder in order to show where the primary facility will be, but I think it is intended to include pool, gym, other types of features that are suitable for the development. The idea is that this corner, as you come into this parcel, is what's set aside kind of as the primary amenity, active, really, gathering space, enclosed for the site. So,
the other questions that I have is coming in off of Road A in here. We're down the road yet, I still have some grave concerns about the access off of John Smith Road for all of this. We don't even have a construction road or the logging road into there yet. And asking to approve this before we even know what those things are gonna be, I have my concerns. That's just me. Once we approve this, if we approve this, it's there. And is there a time frame that they can't start until the approved access roads in and out of there are completed, or where are we at with that?
So I can speak to the construction access road. It has been, it's a part of our phase one application to the city, and DOT has approved the location of the kind of construction access, which is not aligned with Pine Arbor. It is separated off of Pine Arbor as requested council during the IMP. But DOT has approved the temporary access point, which gives you access into this area. So that part has been included in the phase one plans and has been approved by DOT.
But it hasn't been built yet.
Correct. We have not finalized the phase one development plan permit.
Okay, because where I'm going with all of this is you got a lot of trees on there. Now, we had assumed that the John Smith Bridge would be gone by this October, and our thoughts were where the trees were being taken out, they would go out Pine Arbor and that way. We don't know now because of the delays and everything else. I do not want logging coming out onto John Smith and going down to 278. That is a killer for me for any project that's coming out of there. But see what you can do about pushing that wetland buffer back. Let's protect what we do have. I mean, 20 feet, given the location of what these townhomes are, it would give those folks a little bit of land. Maybe you can't push it back because of where it is, but if possible, even 10 feet, 20 feet, anything more
Okay.
would be great.
I will tell you and we'll look into that. The 20-foot was established by the wetland consultants and what they're expecting the Corps to ultimately require as part of the overall mass individual permit for all of South Point. So that is what that is a direct pull from what we've been told and to plan for by the wetland consultant.
Well,
So
20 foot is always gonna be a concern for me. 20 feet's not that much ground. All right, that's all.
okay, thank you.
Anyone?
The buffer along I-95, are you going to log it to the property line, or are you gonna leave that buffer intact?
The intent is to leave it fully intact. However, there may be areas where we do have to provide either some piped drainage or open swell drainage to accommodate what DOT is currently sending our way. Like I said, there's 2 or 3 locations where DOT presently sends water toward us, and those are being expanded as a part of the widening project. And so we need to be able to accommodate those areas and properly handle them and bypass them around the site. So there's one kind of right, the largest of them is kind of right in this area. And it really kind of bisects the property altogether. So that'll allow us to take that drainage water and get it kind of around and back into its original flow path. So
But you don't have to clear the entire buffer line, it's just going to be the section where you need to run those drains, correct?
ma'am.
Okay.
correct.
When we approved the initial IMP, we approved a very stringent stormwater management. And I would hope, actually, I would like for that to be followed to the T. Because I don't think, if you guys don't follow that and we flood back there, because this is a low country and that place floods, the people who own those homes are going to be on the hook to deal with the flood waters if you guys don't take care of that. So my question to you is, all these stormwater ponds, how deep are they gonna be?
So two thoughts. One is we being the master developer has brought on board a flood consultant to help them understand in greater detail how water moves in and around through the site, and are getting recommendations from them on how to properly address that, handle that, including what other measures might need to be done. And then, so just heads up, just want to let the council know that there is a consultant that has been brought on board that specializes in floodways and these kind of larger hydrology situations to understand movement of water through South Point. Secondly to that, we expect each of these to be a wet pond, a working volume from water level to top of the pond to be in the 3 to 4 foot range, and then have a wet volume below that, I would say in the 5 to 8 foot range. That's in general, I think you're looking at 10 to 12 feet from kind of the top of the pond down to the very bottom. Until we get into some of the detailed site design, we don't have the exact depths of those things, but that's what I expect to be working with as we get into it.
Okay, so you did say something earlier about the interconnectivity of the stormwater ponds. How big are those culverts gonna be?
So the culverts that we have internal to us, our preliminary sizing, was it like in the 36 or I think 36 inch range, based on our preliminary sizing and some of the things that we've done to make sure that what we've allocated is more than adequate. We'll finalize that with staff, kind of as our development permit, but we're thinking between the 36 to 48 inch or whatever, honestly, whatever is needed at the end of the day will be what dictates those sizes. But our intention is that all these will all kind of function together as a uniform system.
Okay.
So
Yeah, because when this was initially approved, they went over and above.
correct.
And
I think
extrapolated numbers to the 500-year flood. So I'm expecting at least falling above the 100-year or somewhere in there, because where will this stormwater be dumped out eventually? Where will it go, the overflow?
So all this area kind of flows to this larger wetland that's down here, and then that wetland then flows to the northeast, kind of parallel to John Smith Road, going back toward 278. So
Okay.
there's that bridge on 278.
Right.
It works its way from here back to that 278 bridge, and then around the Great Swamp and back down again.
Okay, okay. All right, so the other question that I had was, had concern when I saw the initial map of all of this stuff, was the turnaround for emergency vehicles, and I see that you have addressed that. My concern was our biggest apparatus is the ladder truck, and I believe these are, how many stories are these family homes? Are they 2 stories? 2 stories, okay. So I just want to know, and I see Chief Bigmeyer here, so would they be able to turn the ladder truck around these streets if they need to respond and get out?
I do believe that. Yes, ma'am, I do believe those aspects have been when he had the chief route. So, as long as he signed off on that on the fire marshal side, we would be.
Okay, well, that was my biggest concern, because that's our biggest apparatus right now, is in how we're going to swing that around when we have a fire or something going on back there, and also if we're going to have emergency access into the parcel next door, we should be, be able to make those turns, because those things don't turn on a dime. I mean, they need a wide turn radius, so
Yes, ma'am.
that was my biggest concern when I saw the initial
Yes, ma'am.
drawing, so thank you for that. Thanks. I have a lot more, but I'm sure I'll leave it to the rest of my council to ask more questions.
We're here for you.
I do have one more question, Steph.
See?
You looked at this, adequate parking is provided under this plan.
Yes, they've provided, so all of the extra parking that you see on the plans, thank you, is all for visitors. We asked them to add that in throughout the initial process, but the townhomes have their own parking on site, so.
2 cars for each townhome.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, you have any questions before I begin?
I have a,
Can I clarify something really quick?
Certainly.
So the height of the townhomes is restricted by the PD, so it's 35 feet. So there may be 3 stories if there's a drive-under for the garage to be at the bottom, and then 2, 3. Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. As long as the fire marshal has given his blessings as far as getting that ladder truck up there, I'm okay with that. And that to me is my biggest worry, because if we're trying to rescue people in the dead of night,
Yes,
and they're up on that story screaming, smoke coming out, it can be chaotic. So we just have to make sure that safety aspects are followed. Thank you.
Mr. White?
the only comment I would reiterate, I think Val has raised some excellent points. And your consultant on the flood water, that report's a big unknown till I get the feedback from you. And I assume we'll hear that information with, is there kind of a target on that? You talked about a consultant.
Actually, I'm missing the weekly call right now. But we should have preliminary results within 30 days, and we're actually hoping to meet with Chris sometime before the end of October to be able to present those findings to him. So that's kind of our working date right now. So we're about halfway into that, and we spend another 30 days or so on the final results and then the report to summarize those results.
Yeah, I think that's an important initiative you've taken, and we'll look forward to hearing that report. I know I will.
We are as well.
I have a few questions. First of all, I got handed a note, someone from the public, because it follows up to what Mrs. Guzman ask, once I-95 is widened, what will the buffer be for the community, for the development?
So in this area, the widening of 95 is internal to the median, not external. So really, there's not a loss of buffer through this stretch of the I-95 widening. And that right-of-way that's here will remain untouched. So there should be no loss of buffer due to the 95 widening through our stretch.
And so what is the distance between where it says property line to actually I-95?
I don't know that offhand, but I can get that for you. If I did my very, very back of the napkin math based on that being 50, I think you're probably 125, give or take.
And while you're looking at that, if you could also look at what is the existing buffer that's
Okay.
there, and that way we have an understanding of what gets added to the internal buffer.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what I would like to know, that
Okay.
distance, what is there? Is it all trees? And, and they will remain, well, of course, they're beyond the property line. So it looks like from this map that it's all trees. So we need, I think Josh is right, we'd like to know what that space is, 125 feet, whatever it is.
And just we will update our exhibits to be this level of detail for the formal council meeting. So that way your IMP books include the proper maps and exhibits. We wanted to bring you our updated land plan to make sure we had, something for discussion and the ability to review the changes that we've made since Planning Commission. So when we get the first reading, you'll have your IMP booklet will be fully updated and brought back to snuff.
Thank you.
We've seen 125-foot buffers and even 175-foot buffers along less traveled roads. I'll use Argent Boulevard as an example. And the minute somebody closes on that, they start complaining about the noise. We have, in past, we have asked about some other locations, particularly along Argent Boulevard. Are there any materials that will be used to mitigate the noise? Because I'll guarantee you, we'll get asked to put up a noise wall there as soon as all those homes are built. So I know there are certain windows and certain things that can be used to mitigate the noise. Has there been any thought given to that?
You're talking about building materials.
Windows,
Windows.
building materials, yeah.
That is something that we can always look into. We're the developer, we're not the builder, but we do control the
Covenants in the.
thank you.
Yes.
The design guidelines, so that is something that we can explore.
And just for my own clarification, who do you work for?
4-star?
4-Star.
Yes, sir.
And who are they?
We're the group buying the property.
You're buying the property and who's the builder?
We're not sure yet. Because what
Okay.
happens is we go out and we find the property, and then we go through this process and we find the proper builder.
Okay, so ROI is selling you the property
Correct.
and then you will go and select the builder.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. What is the percentage of active open space? This is a common question, a question we ask all the time. Not open space,
Correct.
active open space, usable.
It is 10%. The overall is 30, the active is 10. Is that correct, Katie?
Yes.
Okay, and so we actually have the summary of the active open space that'll be included in the documents, but we do exceed the 10% of required active open space that is for the parcel.
Okay. I don't see sidewalks. Oh, Kevin?
How are you, Kevin Ferrugio, ROI? Sorry I was a little late. We're actually on the call with the flood consultant that you were talking about. On the open space side, it's important to note that the overall site includes a lot of wetlands. So when he says 10% active, that's across the board. But if you kind of look at the development area that's consolidated into that upland space, that's probably 30 acres or so. So the active open space really is higher than that, So I think that needs to be, maybe we can kind of show you the real open space within the development area, the community, because again, it's consolidated to this area. So I think that's somewhere in the 30, 32 acres. And so if we have 5 acres, it's going to be more like 15% or so. Just want to make that note that we were intentional about really consolidating active open space inside. I think last time, I don't know if you went into it.
Yes,
They
yeah.
removed some of the active open
Correct.
space that was outside, not convenient to the community. So anyhow, I just want to say that's a pretty important point.
When we say active open space, Kevin, it's what can be used for whatever the community, and this is gonna be an HOA community, I assume?
Yes.
Okay, what they deem they want their community to have. Could be a dog park, it could be swing sets, it could be whatever, okay? And that's why, starting a few years ago, we started asking every development, not just yours, to keep at least 10% of active open space. Because prior to that, people come in and say, well, we got 50% open space. And as I've said to everybody, alligators are not active open space. So, stormwater ponds with an alligator cannot be used as a swimming hole. So that's why we started asking for that. So where that is what we will ask to point out, and staff's familiar with this request. So, that's something we want to see. Where is it? How much is it? Okay. And I think we were going to start with where are the sidewalks?
Sidewalks are required in the PDD, and so this plan that we, there you go. So again, we'll update our exhibits to fully replicate the previously submitted exhibits,
okay.
but you'll see that they are double loaded along the roadways. So it was.
So they're, all right, and they're on one side of the road.
I think it's double, both sides, so it'll be double loaded with sidewalks.
It is. Okay. Now, I have a question in this, what you handed to us. If you look at, let's go into the middle, and you have stormwater plan, the pond, excuse me, with the circle around it. You see, can you point to it? All right, so now just to the left of that, those townhomes in the back, how do they access their property? I don't see, is there a road that's gonna go? And that's not the only place, but I don't,
This set?
no. See the stormwater pond with the circle? Right there, okay, now go just to the left of that. See those group of townhomes there? I don't see a road that gets them back there.
This, was that?
They're front.
Everything's front loaded. So all units will use these primary roadways and be front loaded for their access
So
for
is there gonna
driveways.
be an access cut through?
Right, this roadway right here. That's one of the main changes that we made from the original layout. The original layout didn't have any,
All right, go,
there we go, sorry.
go back,
Okay,
all right.
I'll
Go
ditch
back.
that.
All right, so go back to where you were pointing. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 homes. Go back, up, up, right? No, to the left of this, where we start, see those, what is it, 6 there? How do those 6 homes with their 2-car garage get there?
This roadway right here.
But there are homes in front of it.
No, those are the
Patios, so,
Patios.
lot,
Yeah.
lot lines
Yeah.
and then the.
Oh,
the
so
structure.
they're not 6
They're
in the
the
front,
driveways.
6 in the back? Okay,
Yes.
sorry,
Yep.
I
We were showing the
I was
total
confused too.
lot
Yeah.
plan,
okay.
and then the actual structure in the middle to show front yard, rear yard. So
Okay. Now, we have DA fees attached to this community, right?
correct, it's part of the development agreement.
And we have parks, staff, do we have parks in there? Could you look that up?
We do.
We do, okay. The reason I'm asking, because these active open spaces, if the community wants to have a park where there's swings and things like that, I'd like to have DA fees, so these are possible to be implemented. I'm not saying it would have to get approvals, but at least the money's there. So along I-95, there's a 50-foot buffer, but I made a question mark. You may have to take some down and there would only be 15 feet? Did I misunderstand what you said?
I think it's the invert of that. The PDD and the development agreement allow that buffer to be utilized for stormwater purposes. We don't intend to do that, but there may be a couple of areas where we have to collect DOT drainage and route it. And so in those areas, we may use up to 15 feet of the buffer
Up to
To-
15 feet.
to do that, correct?
But it wouldn't be across the entire property line.
Correct, it would only be in areas needed to collect that drainage.
Okay. And on the other side, the wetland buffer, and someone else brought this up, I think Steve, I agree with him that, having only 20 feet along the wetland buffer, that's a concern for me. I agree with Steve on that. Yes, sir.
Can I just add something to that? Because we anticipate a 20-foot average wetland buffer. And in one way, we might be able to achieve a larger buffer.
Push to the top.
Is to, instead of, because what might happen is if, let's say let 25 or 30, then the redesign effort will start to bring these buildings closer to the wetland here, these buildings closer to wetlands, these push these away. And before you know it, we've but if you take the average, and maybe we could take this line and just extend it beyond all these units, I think you'll find that it's gonna be pretty hefty. It's gonna be maybe 40 feet or 50, when you average out all of these. So, I would argue, that might, it is, without going to a uniform distance, or not going to a uniform distance, sometimes is more beneficial than actually leaving it like an average where you've got 80 feet here and then 25 here and so forth. So maybe we can do a better job communicating that buffer along the back so that you have a better feel for that. Because again, you got some pinch points here, like you said, and maybe there's ways we can, reduce rear yards or somehow, but I think when you start taking the total distance, you'll feel more comfortable about that. It's just a thought.
We've had,
Don't average.
yeah,
Don't average.
right.
Average.
But we've had discussions, and there was a ordinance that came out with Bluffton on this very thing. And this council has also discussed, and, I personally thought it was a good idea, of increasing the required amount of wetland buffer. And this is particularly what this was talked about. So we have yet to have that ordinance come forward, and I think it shouldn't be delayed too much longer, so we don't get involved in this. But I agree with Steve that I do not, whether it goes in a curve or it goes straight across, 20-foot in a wetland buffer is a concern of mine. I think Bluffton led the way, and I agree with them that wetland buffers should be increased. So that's going to be a problem with me. I'm with Steve on that wholehearted. What's the price point on this? And the square footage of the units?
Yeah, this is still, we're still working on that until we get this plan finalized. We haven't gotten the depths of that analysis yet.
You know, Steve just made a statement. We don't deal with averages. We don't deal with maybes. And that's, I'm not trying to be smart. When we say yes, we have to say yes to something specific. And so if you want us to say yes, we gotta know the price point or any question that we ask. There have to be definite answers to it, not averages. We need to know what it is. If that's a concern for us, those questions have to be answered before we go to vote, okay? I have a question that, I'm shocked that Mrs. Guzman didn't ask. There are a lot of ponds here, a lot of gators,
That was coming up.
and these are townhomes with kids. And that's one of the reasons I asked for the price point, because who's that going to? And there was a reference to, 500 people. I think Neil would confirm that when we estimate population and stuff, if it's a over 55 community, we calculate it 1.75. But at a family home, we calculated 2.75. That would make the number of people in there not 500, but 715. So to whatever point that was, we have to anticipate that there could be 715 people and school-age kids. And that goes to my next point that I'm concerned about. There is one access. Besides the enormous amount of space, and I'd like to know exactly what's the distance from John Smith Road to the furthest most point in this development. There's one road that's got to service 55 acres, plus the distance it takes to get there from John Smith. I'd like to know what those numbers are.
We will provide those, and two, just while phase 2 is still coming in, there's going to be multiple points of access when the master plan itself is fully built out. I know we're dealing with this one first, so we have to deal with it on its own, but we'll have the Spine Road, the Road B, the 278 connection once all of it is fully intertwined. But
That's years down the road. In the meantime, some child who's in the furthest most point may need emergency services, and while we're waiting for a spine road, it's going to take them 10 minutes to get from, through that community, or whatever the number is. But I think I'd like to know what that number is. What's the time is it going to take to get from John Smith Road to the furthest most point in this community for an ambulance for somebody in distress? Okay? And the other thing with one access with a community like this, we're talking about school-age kids, you're talking about school buses. So, we have one road for a school bus to get in and out. And so that one road is a concern of mine, because we're dealing with just this, what gets into this development, and not the total IMP. It's not the total district. We have to be concerned about the public safety of this one unit as if nothing else is happening, because nothing else will happen for quite some time. Sidewalks, okay. All right, here's my last point. Just about every week now, maybe more than once a week, there's a serious accident at John Smith and 278. That intersection is horrible. Horrible enough that the owners of the Morgan Tract are putting $8 million of road improvements on that part of John Smith Road, including a light. It is a worsening situation. It won't get any better with this coming in. We're gonna have construction vehicles, logging vehicles, and then we're gonna have cars all put on that intersection. To me, it's a public safety nightmare with what's coming. I believe, and I recommend strongly to this council, that we do not approve any initial master plan until those $8 million of road improvements are completed in total. Anything less would be, I believe, would be irresponsible to our responsibility to public safety. This can wait. Someone's life cannot. And that is a big concern of mine, to approve anything, any additional traffic on John Smith Road until we get the road improvements done, including, and probably most important, the light at that intersection. And council, this is a workshop. This is not a vote, but I would ask everyone to consider that as one of the most important things that we do, and not give temporary approval. Okay, we don't give you a permit until it's done. Come back with an initial, for me, come back an initial master plan when it's all done, because that's gonna take time. And if we open the door for anything to start any sooner, then for me, I don't want that on my conscience. It is, and it's not supposition. It's happening every week at that intersection. And that's before one single logging truck comes into this development. So that's, sorry, but for me, my vote, wait. Okay, I'm done.
I have one question, one more follow-up question, or maybe two. These stormwater ponds are surrounded by multifamily homes. So what the mayor was saying, that there's gonna be a lot of kids in there. What measures are you gonna put in place so you don't have those kids going messing around in the storm ponds? Because wherever you see a storm pond, there's gonna be a kid in there at any particular time. So what measures are you gonna put in place to protect the children that's gonna be living in there? You have to think about that.
I understand. I understand because I have a 5-year-old who likes to
Explore.
explore.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have multiple storm waters and ponds in my community. We haven't had any issues. In all of our communities, we have the stormwater ponds. I mean, we put signage and, you know, the HOA shares information about alligators and, you know, especially if people aren't from the area, don't walk your dogs at the bottom of the pond. But in terms of like a physical barrier, we haven't explored any of that in our communities.
So, I mean, the reason why I asked that, signage is all good, but we have signage in some of these developments where folks have been walking Fluffy at the end of the property, and Fluffy's become a Scooby snack. So, I just don't want to see a kid becoming a Scooby snack.
Neither do I. I mean, it's the stormwater ponds are standard in our area. I'm not sure what a response would be other than, putting fences on all developments around all ponds, and that's just not feasible. Nor does it look nice. I mean, that's a good thing to think about.
Either is a dead kid, doesn't look nice either, so.
No, but
We have to, I guess we're saying that we have to have the ponds, there's no.
We
there's
have
no
Oh,
way
yeah,
around
I understand that, I
ponds
get that,
and-
you have to have that. But my thing is, prevention is always better than the cure, so.
absolutely.
And
But I mean,
kids will be kids.
the kid's gonna run out in the street
Yeah.
and chase the ball.
But that's a man-made pond, right? It's gonna be a
Yes.
man-made pond, so.
As an option to potentially help with this discussion, the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources has several staff members who are focused solely on alligator-related issues. It may be worthwhile to reach out to them to talk about this situation and see if they have any recommendations for best practices or other things to be done.
There could be certain design and things that
Thank you.
can be.
Thank you.
Vegetation or other
Thank
types
you.
of things
Yeah,
that can be done.
even
Correct.
vegetation.
Awesome.
Vegetation
Yeah.
could
Thank you
prevent-
so much for that, I appreciate it.
Had another one where, alligators are prevalent, and we've left the buffer and planted extra, and that's made them go different ways to kind of direct traffic. Okay, thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Do we have any accident data for the 278 corridor? Is there anything we can talk about today about that, the 278 John Smith corridor?
I had asked, I forget who, before I left on vacation, to get some data there, but I know when I was away, there were a number of texts that came through with additional accidents since that time. There's also accidents happening, and just as a, further evidence, look at the construction site at Brickyard. How many accidents have happened there since it's and I know many, just about everybody in this council has said at one time or another that public safety is our number one concern, and there is enough concern that $8 million worth of road improvements have been dedicated to that, because it is recognized that that whole thing is a failing intersection. So to throw something on top of a bad situation, that seems irresponsible to me. And I would say, come back in a couple of years when it's almost done. It's not stopping this from being developed. All I'm suggesting is stop it now. Let's fix. We get all the time, we get criticized for not doing infrastructure before we do building. We get it all the time. And our answer is, hey, you need to build in order to get there. That's not the case here. We were given $8 million to fix it first. And then to allow something to go before it's fixed. I just don't get that. Let's fix the infrastructure and then go and build after that.
Mayor, to the point you made about requesting some data on the traffic impacts and collisions in that area, I understand Deputy Chief Beckmeyer is with us this afternoon, and he may be able to provide some information there. I know they have been particularly busy there within the last several weeks, but I think we may have looked a little bit broader than that.
And also, there's another point with, thank you, Chief, for coming and responding to that. was more vacation for us, so I forget who I asked what. But there's another point to all these accidents. Besides the public safety, the people, there was a death there a couple of weeks ago, all right? You can't stop people from making bad decisions. You can only help make the intersection better. But here's the other element that we as a council have to consider. Every time there's an accident there, our fire personnel or police personnel are tied up in that one spot for hours. It's costing us money. And that is, and yet the builder doesn't pay a thing towards that. But we have to expend the time and money of our services, and every time our police officer is out on that road, or a firefighter out on that road directing traffic, his life is in jeopardy. So the more we can minimize accidents through $8 million of road improvements, the less we're spending city resources and less we're putting our first responders in serious jeopardy. So, having said that, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. I'll keep it brief. I can answer pretty much any question, but a thorough study of our accidents. I just pulled the past 12 months and studying 278, specifically at the John Smith intersection of 278. And we're close to half of our accidents occurring. Anything that occurs in our area along 278, we're close to half of them occurring right there at that intersection. A good amount of them are either classified as moderate or heavy damage. A good portion of them do go to trauma centers. And what happens from there, sometimes we get a trauma update or not, but the fact that a good portion of the wrecks that we have responded to there over the past 12 months have had to be transported to a level 1 trauma center indicates, again, the severity of the accidents. And so what all the data basically pulls together is something like a traffic control measure at that intersection would be the solution. But I have all the data, or we get into specifics if you'd like, Mr. Mayor, but that's the gist of what I have.
I think please send it to the council so
Yes, sir.
we're aware of exactly what's happened. And I think the recent accident data from Brickyard, because that's an example of what happens when you start building.
Yes, sir.
Accidents happen. It's proofs in the pudding right there. And I think it would be helpful for the council to know exactly what's happening at that construction site as well.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Council, any further questions?
Do you know when the construction will be happening for that intersection change?
There's, that's being handled now, and I see Carla just got up off it, and she'll give you a better thing. But I will caution everybody. We're managing this project through Ms. Vincent. But as we have painfully come to recognize in the last 5-6 years, just because a light's approved doesn't mean it's up. It takes time. And DOT is not going to put a light up there even though they pre-approved. There are going to be counts. And even when we give them the counts, how long are we waiting on Argent Boulevard now, Josh? How many months? So we proved the need, and it's still DOT hasn't given us the go-ahead to put it up.
And on that note, the signal warrant analysis was still required, and we have submitted it, and we don't have it approved yet. So that's where we are with that.
Right.
As far as construction, I'm hopeful in about 18 months that we can have the design plans done and be underway. So for that aspect, I don't know what your construction schedule is. They all kind of line up. Same thing with the 95 widening and its construction progress. We're looking at, 2 years from now, it's going to be a different landscape out there. So
So I think it would be helpful to council, given my concerns, is that we have some sort of timetable, similar to like DOT says, okay, the bridge is done here, and, you know, we know. And then add in what we have to go through for the signal warrants before a light is approved. It's one thing putting it up, and that takes a long time, but it's another thing to get it approved. And you're shaking your head, so you've probably traveled down this road before. We have an opportunity here, because we have the money, to make the infrastructure safe first. And you know, the PDD has been approved, it's there, there's rights there, but let's do it at a timing that doesn't put us in a situation where, you know, I have to wear my black suit and go to somebody's church, okay?
Yeah, we've been slow, you know, it's getting off to a slow start because of the warrant analysis, so.
Right.
You know, once we have that warrant analysis in hand, the preliminary plans will move faster through design.
The intersection's gonna see a lot of changes. The closing of the bridge over 95 on John Smith is going to change the dynamics of that whole area. Pine Arbor, John Smith will change that. When the reconfiguration of exit 8 is going to change everything in there. I mean, you're saying 2 years, we could see issues for 4+ years with that intersection because of the traffic changes. Even if those lights went in tomorrow, we're still gonna have issues because of the bridge over 95 and exit 8. So everything has to fall into place, and I hope it sure does perfectly, but, you know, I'm skeptical.
Right, and there's a huge coordination effort for exit 8, the John Smith bridge over 95, John Smith and 278, you know, any improvements to 278, so we're working on it.
And currently, we have the Morgan Tract is coming online with what they're doing. We have the counties across 278. We have building in Margaritaville. We have everything else going on right there. And it just seems like the perfect storm right now. And the accident data is showing that storm is here. And I agree. We can't slow the traffic on 278. That's a state. They say that's just the way it's gonna be. And we all hear from the people that have to travel that every day, that your lights are doing this, your lights are doing that. I don't know what the answer is, but I do believe that throwing more into the mix is not the ideal time. That's my thought.
And as has been said up on this dais more than one time, we don't want to be in a hurry to make a mistake. You know what, and I realize time is money, but hey, let's putting the brakes on for a while until we get this all done, I think is a wise decision for you, because you don't want to have, you know, a problem or anything on your conscience, and we sure don't want to have it up here. So I'm recommending we put on the brakes for a while, and before we do another vote or anything, let's get the update and at least some sort of timetable on when all $8 million of improvements are done, and then we can forward that to this young lady and her group.
I think your plan is good, and you're working with us to do what we want. I just don't think the timing is right. That's my thought.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. And thank you all. Do you have any further questions from us?
I appreciate the time today and to be able to talk through this.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
Thank you very much. So council, just for part A, we will coordinate with Josh as to A, do you want a a workshop? B, are they requesting it? You know, first we have to get a request from them.
So as
The
we've
onus is on them.
Yeah, so as we've been sitting here, Mayor, I have received that request from that group. And because they are making changes to what was initially submitted, I do believe it would be a good idea to hold a workshop so that we can understand the nature of those changes before it goes on the council meeting agenda. So I understand that they're trying to target having this come before council at the October 16th meeting. And so I will try to work with Cindy to look at calendars to see if we can get something out maybe for early October to schedule this workshop.
And I would strongly suggest, due to the difficulty of this decision, that we pick a time where we're clear that all 5 of us are here.
Yes.
Okay, wow. So there's only one item left on this agenda, and that's number 3. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you.